Okay.
Introduce a waiter.
All right, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest speaker. It's very hard to share a brief introduction of Jacqui Sakowski. She is president of Sakowski Consulting, LLC, and the founder of Selling Extranet Groups, through which she consults, coaches, and trains organizations and individuals to improve sales performance and increase profitability. She is a committed community servant who volunteers many hours and much expertise to our community. She is a killer networker with friends across the political and social strata and around the world. And she is leveraging social media daily to support her friends, clients, and community, as well as to grow her own business. Today she's going to share with us her experiences on LinkedIn and some insights about how we can all leverage it as a valuable business tool. So please welcome Jacqui Sakowski.
So the fact that I'm a committed community servant is why when Chuck and I bumped into each other in downtown Madison about 6 weeks ago at 8 o'clock at night, I'm speaking Saturday afternoon for free to this class. Because he knows that I'm somebody when he says, would you come and talk about that to my class? That I'm going to say, well, if we can find a time and date that works, sure, why not? Because none of us ever succeeded in life without help from somebody, did we? And you never know yet how you're going to help me. So I'm glad to be here. And how many people are on LinkedIn? Okay, how many
people? I'm sorry.
use LinkedIn?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you all have accounts? You don't have an account. Oh, and what planet did you come from today? So what do you do?
A nursing instructor.
You're a nursing instructor. Okay. So this is probably a bit of a mystery to you.
It is.
Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. Woohoo. Okay, I love it when somebody has no clue what I'm talking about, because that means I really get a chance to add new information. LinkedIn is like professional Facebook. Okay. So there are 120 million approximately people on LinkedIn right now. And they had their IPO in July, and I own stock. I joined LinkedIn in 2004. A friend of mine in California said, you're not on this thing? You haven't heard of this thing? Oh my God, you need to be on this thing. You're a killer networker. And how many of you consider yourselves good networkers? You have friends, right? Okay, if you've got friends, people that love you, you're a networker. If you ever ask them for help, you're a networker. If you ever give them help, you're a networker. LinkedIn is a way of networking online. For me, it's a hugely powerful tool. When I think about networking, I think about being a resource and having access to resources. It's what we do. People ask us for help. Chuck and I bump into each other. He says, what have you been doing? I said, I've been teaching some people how to use LinkedIn. He said, oh, that's interesting. Would you come and talk to my class? I'm being a resource to him. He's giving me an opportunity to present my business to you through this class. So we're helping each other. And LinkedIn is probably one of the best disciplined opportunities, easiest way to do this. Your nurses are looking for jobs. Your friends in the hospital industry and the medical industry are looking for nurses. What a cool thing that they can access you, know what you're up to, even when you're not present. And that's the thing I love. I've done business on 5 continents, so I get to have connections now daily with people that have been in my life for a long time, but at a great distance. And so building this network is fun, it's huge, and I think it's important. It's important for the future of our professional lives. I had a little over 1,000 contacts on there, and there's no way in the world that I could daily speak to 1,000 people and do my job, do my volunteering, make any money, have time to do laundry or anything else. But what this gives me a chance to do is to show up regularly. Sorry, that's my email. Let's turn that off. Because you don't know that somebody's trying to sell me online degree programs that I can probably get finished in 4 weeks at really low cost and double my income. Right, you've all had that email, you can tell. So what this allows me to do is to communicate on a regular basis with lots of people really, really quickly. So I want to show you some of the ways to set up on here. How many of you use LinkedIn daily? Just me, huh? Okay.
No, I got a question.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
So now you
interrupt me
got-
whenever you like.
So I've got the regular LinkedIn, I have an account, but then there's a fee tied to it too. I don't have the fee. Doesn't it cost money? One part of it?
Doesn't cost me anything.
Well, not you, but
But, no,
Most
but
people.
you can pay for services. Most people, unless you're a recruiter,
oh,
you probably don't need to pay for anything on LinkedIn, ever.
okay.
So, and your name, sir, is?
Fred.
Fred. Okay, thanks, Fred.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, you had a question, stretching your hand. Okay, good. So no, you don't need to pay. There are 2 different levels of paid subscription that bring extra facility. For recruiters, this is an incredible tool. Imagine if you're looking to fill a really difficult to fill position and you can sort through 120 million people really fast. Wouldn't that be cool? And not have to look at every single one, to be able to search and things. So, just like any other organization, any network that you join, people aren't looking for you. They're glad that you're there, but their objective is not necessarily to meet you. It may be to meet someone like you, to find facilities that you offer. But if they don't know you, why would they be looking for you? So you have to make yourself easy to find. You have to build some awareness of yourself in here. It's like any other networking group, it's about participation. Which is why I, probably one of the busiest people anybody knows, spends about 20 minutes a day on this. And when I met Chuck in the street in July, we'd both just come out of the Madison Club, so it's a good street to be talking on. I had 7 clients that I'd found this year on LinkedIn. I now have 8, and I just turned down 1, otherwise I would have had 9. So last Saturday, in a telephone conference, and now I have the paperwork back, so it's definitely back. I got my first client in Israel through LinkedIn. So should we talk a little bit about how we do that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the home page, right? So you see my picture up here and a chance to share an update about what we're doing. And what I wrote yesterday was 2 new pieces of business, 2 new pieces of business confirmed before 9 o'clock. It was a happy day yesterday. I got an email saying, yes, we've approved it and we're signing your contract and it's going to be on your fax machine when you get in. And when I went in this morning and it was there. And one was a telephone conference that I just finished, and she emailed me back the agreement this morning too, so it's like, yes, it's definitely happening. So I can say something about myself. And then if we scroll down, we get updates from people in our circle. So I get to see what people are doing. And what I get is Mike is connected to Bill, Rod is connected to these people, Adam's joined these groups, Cindy's connected to this one. A lot of what you'll see in these news feeds is people connecting. And that's great, but what's the point if you're not doing anything with these people? Having a huge circle of people just because you have a huge circle really doesn't bring benefit. I mean, it might make you look good in a public place that everybody that's worth knowing is in your list, but really it's about engagement. 65% of people on LinkedIn don't ever read the updates. I do. Because I have 1,046 people. I get somewhere between 350 and 400 updates every day. But most of them say, somebody's connected to somebody else. So those don't take me long to read. Sometimes I'll look at that and go like, wow, who's that? And I'll scan it and say, oh, that'd be an interesting person to know. Now I'll have to get Roger to introduce me to Neil because Neil's working in a field that I'm interested in. Or he's doing something in one of my fundraising campaigns might benefit from his endorsement if he's in that field or something like that. But what Genevieve Flight, who lives in the United Kingdom, does is she posts articles resources that can be of value and interest to people in her circle, which is really useful. She's being a resource. She's saying, I found some cool information that I think is important, and if you trust my judgment, and that's why you're my friend, then you might find this useful. And if you're in technology, then Eric Schmidt thinking something may or may not be relevant to you. Don't blame the internet for the riots. Yeah, people have got to have a reason to riot before they use the internet to organize one. He's probably, even without reading all of that, there's probably some validity to that. And she lives in London, so the riots are obviously very important to her. I mean, hopefully they're important to all of us, but they're really important if they're in your neighborhood, aren't they? So people are sharing information. So I want to tell you a few things about how to set up your profile. And in my ideal world, you'd all have had your laptops and you'd all be logged into this so we could look through it together. But along the top, you'll see the buttons here. I'm going to go to Edit Profile. I always look at my own profile in the Edit Profile box because it's easy to change anything. If I suddenly spot a typo that's been there for 6 months that I've never seen before, I'm there. But one of the first things you should notice is my name. My first name is Jacqui Sakowski, and my family name is consultant, coach, author, and speaker. So I changed the way I use those boxes to give more information. Because one of the things that we have in here is the capacity to search. And if more of the search terms that people use when they're looking for someone like you are present in this first area, you're more likely to be found sooner rather than later. And knowing how lazy we all are, most of us sort of look at the first 3 to 5 names that come up on a list. So we want to be one of them to the extent that we can manage them. The second thing is, but this perceptive, insightful, and candid, I wrote this about myself. I have no hesitation telling you that these are skills that I believe I have and my clients tell me are true. But perceptive, insightful, and candid, I work with individuals and organizations to deliver sales results. Unless you change this area is filled with your job title. Well, my job title is President of Sakowski Consulting LLC. What does that tell you? Squat. Doesn't mean anything, except I own my own company and I gave myself a fancy title so that I could get to talk to other company presidents more easily. So this is much more useful because it tells you something about what I do. So see the edit key here. This is why I always look at my stuff. Click on edit. You can change all of this. Unless you put something else in here, it'll come up with your job title. That's straightforward. You're immediately more searchable when you do this. And when you think that most people aren't looking for you, making it easy for them to find you is really important. These status updates that you saw people doing, really important that you do a status update on a regular basis. I do at least 1 per day. Now, what we say matters. Mostly I don't talk about myself. Mostly I put information in, like, First Business Bank is one of my clients, and they're holding their first ever bank golf outing. They're paying for everything. They're underwriting the whole event, and everybody that pays to come, all the money will go to charity, local charities. So, I love being connected with them because they're a sterling organization to do business with. As a community servant, I'm grateful for the fact that they're doing this. So I make my status update about their fundraiser, and I put a link to their bank in there. And the people at the bank that are connected to me see that. They appreciate that I'm promoting them in a public environment. and all that. So that reinforces my relationship with them. It lets the community know something about them. It's being a resource. But occasionally I like to let people know, some people hire me, so you can too. That's okay. And the fact that, I put in these two organizations, because if people that read this respect Being Buy Local and Germantown Chamber of Commerce, then that might give me a little bit more credibility, right? The fact that my friends trust you, people I respect trust you, tells me I can trust you just a little bit sooner, a little bit more. So doing this on a regular basis is really important. If you can get in the habit of doing it daily, at least through the work week, that tells people these are people with something going on. And we all want to be dealing with people who've got something going on, right? We like friends who've got something to say, something to talk about, that are involved in things. So this is an important thing to do.
Question for you.
Sure.
Maybe you're going to get to kind of managing this, but when you have so LinkedIn account, Facebook account, Twitter account, all of them have the status update piece. How do you manage all that? Or do you manage all that and just decide, you know what, I'm going to focus in on LinkedIn, or maybe you're going to go there, but I'm curious to that.
I'm happy to go there. And it's a great question, because nobody has more time than they need for their life. Is there any water anywhere that I could?
Sure.
Thanks.
John, would you mind getting a cup of
Yeah.
water for us?
Yeah.
Stanley?
Let me just go back to the home page. And you'll see the little Twitter symbol there, next to where it says share. And I have that checked. So whatever I write in here, if I keep it to 140 characters, it automatically goes out to my Twitter feed. So I don't have to do two. Frankly, I'm not very convinced by Twitter, but people like me are expected to be there. I'm a sales, business development guy. I need to be in these places. I also need to measure the impact of it. I've not got any clients that I know of through Twitter, but I've got 8 this year alone that I know of from LinkedIn. Facebook, I do have a small company Facebook page. I don't think Facebook, unless you've got time, with Twitter and Facebook, unless you've got time to be actively monitoring it and feeding it throughout the day, every 15 minutes, it's probably not going to work for you. LinkedIn is a little more controlled. It's solely for professionals looking for other professionals, wanting to connect in a professional environment. And therefore, people seem, once or twice a day. Sometimes I've got lots going on and there's lots of cool things going on and I'm in there more, but I'm never there more than 20 minutes in a day. But the biggest thing with any of these things is finding where the value is for where you spend your time. Bless you. I monitor and measure things. So in 2004, when I first went on here, I wasn't there all the time. People started sending me requests to join. If I knew them, I accepted. If I didn't know them, I didn't accept. And then I started hearing more and more buzz about it. So I made a commitment to spend half an hour a day for the first 3 months of 2006 on this. And I started to get real energy, and I would bump into people and say, I loved your comment on LinkedIn, but they never ever said anything on LinkedIn. But they were reading stuff and appreciating stuff and finding value and connecting it to me. So then I get incredibly busy, and so I cut it back to 20 minutes and didn't lose anything. So now I commit to the 20 minutes. And if at 15 minutes I've not done it, and I measure this kind of stuff, which is probably really anal for me, it's obviously I need help with it. I commit that time. So I find another reason to go back on. I look for something. But in here you wouldn't find me talking about the Packer game last night. All of that. But on Facebook, I follow the game on Facebook with my Facebook pals. So we're all sort of talking about what's going on and well, it got a little rocky at times, and so we do that there. For my company, on my Sakowski Consulting page on Facebook, I'll post articles and things, but not every day like I do here, because I know that this is working for me. I think with anything in our businesses, we need to be tracking what's working, doing more of what is, less of what isn't, right? It's everything we do. And I have to help a lot of salespeople who think they have no control over their own performance know that they have tons of control over their own performance by being really controlling about mine, which is probably why I track everything. Oh, that's my excuse. And I'm going to stick with it until I come up with a better one. But the other thing with this, I mentioned, yeah.
Do you think one must be selective with whom you accept? One accepts or?
Yes, and it's a very personal thing. So you'll see I'm wearing a Rotary pin. So I will accept a connection with any Rotarian anywhere in the world. Because on some level we're sharing the same values. We've signed up to the same set of rules for our life. Because Rotary is not about a club, it's about how you live your life. So I figure wherever you are, if you're in Rotary, I'm going to assume you believe in what you signed up to. So I accept that. I accept anybody that's been in a class that I spoke to, or a program that I spoke to, because on some level we have something in common. They're connected to the people that sent out the invitation, who are people that I trust, or I wouldn't have gone to speak there. I connect with people that I'm enjoying having discussions with on LinkedIn. But one of the things is it's very personal. Now, I've been in sales for 30 years. I spent my whole life going out and making relationships with complete strangers on 5 continents. And so I'm a lot more open than a lot of other people are. I mean, I have friends who say, do you worry you might read what you say? And I say, only to the extent that I need to think about what I say. And don't we all? Couldn't we all sometimes be a little more discreet about what we say, even within our own families sometimes, because of the complications that it creates? So I think it's about your own personal boundaries that you want to set around yourself. But if part of your reason to be here is to meet new people, you need to open yourself up to the little bit of risk that comes with welcoming strangers into your life. My husband has to live within sight of the Wisconsin River, which is, or sound and smell of it, not quite sight of it, which is why I live in Wisconsin. He was raised here, I was not. And I'll go off to do business in New York City, and I swear, he paces the house back and forth until I get home, whether I'm gone for a day or a week. And yet I've done business all over the world in much more dangerous places than New York City. Now there are some that would say there are no more dangerous places, but it's all about your own comfort zone. But if we're going to have relationships with lots of people, we have to open ourselves up to the risk that sometimes that's going to hurt in business and in all of our life. If you don't take the risk of opening yourself up, how do you meet people? How do you expand? How do you grow? Why would you be in this class? Right? If you don't want new ideas, new opportunities, new people. So think of it in that way. And the thing that I do, you can unfriend people. So if you see people engaging in behaviors that you think could reflect badly on you, you can unfriend them. I've done that with a couple of people whose every day seemed to end in a bottle of Chardonnay. And I thought, if you drink too much, then I would like you to get help. If you don't drink too much, but you need to make it sound as if you do, then you need to get help. But what I don't want people to think is that Jacqui seems such a good person, but all her friends are drunk. What does that make Jacqui? I was raised behind the counter of a liquor store, so I have to manage this. Because I don't want that in my circle. Now on Facebook, if people, it's a different space. It tends to be more personal. And so, we have those two faces. So one of the ways that we get to know people, I mentioned if I've been in discussions with people. That's how I met my lady from Tel Aviv, because we're in a discussion together. And Alex, one of my clients, he and I were in a discussion together, and Jeff and other of my clients were in discussions together on LinkedIn. Now, Alex and Jeff are both in the Greater Madison community. Daniela is in Tel Aviv, so that's kind of fun. And the guy that I turned down is in Slovenia, and he couldn't afford me. Was giving me all the reasons why I should have different rates for emerging economies. But integrity is about integrity and pricing too, and much as I loved his story, I couldn't go there ultimately. But groups are where most of our discussions take place. How many of you are in groups? Okay, a couple of you. Okay, groups are important. Groups are where you can find friends that you can trust more easily. So I have a group here, you can see it's called Sakowski Consulting LLC Alumni. Anybody who's had a program with me for fee or for free can join my alumni group. It's only people that know me that can be in there. So if you decide you would like to continue our relationship, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and then you can join my alumni group and get to know some of the other people that have been part of it. But you can have participation in up to 50 groups. So I'm going to go to my groups, which is known on here as your groups. You see, I'm in 43 groups. Now, I couldn't be in 43 networking groups. And some of the things I do network in are not actually in this list, the things that I do in my real life. But of course, it has my group first, International Professionals in Madison. It's a group full of foreigners or people who do business with foreigners. Okay, so that's a group that I participate in the real world and online. ARC Advocates, this is a group that one of my clients manages. It's about a product that he has. BBC World News, well, go figure. Biotech Investment Group, my husband's a founder of a biotech business, so I don't understand when he talks about his work, but I find out more about it through these folks, because he's like a scientist and I'm not. British expats in the USA, Brits far from home. When I'm feeling lonely and a long way from home, I go chat with my pals who are also feeling a long way from home. And in fact, I can't remember which of these two groups it was, but it's all about participation. So I get updates about discussions that are going on in these groups. So let's just pick, I think expats in the USA is the busier of these two. So it tells you that there are discussions going on, and anybody can start a discussion, throw out a question. Did anyone notice today that Sirius Radio no longer has BBC One Radio? I grew out of BBC One Radio when I was about 22, but apparently some of these people still need to listen to it. I'm sure they have radio here that has the same music if they look, but you know, it looks like I'll be cancelling my subscription. And then we get a conversation going and people start saying to me, well, have you talked to Sirius Radio? Have you talked to the BBC? You know, are there other places you can get it? So one day there was a question on here, where can you buy decent bacon in America? Because British bacon is different than American bacon. And if we had more time, I would explain. But suffice it to say, this guy in Florida is missing his British bacon. And I'm thinking, how sad you're 4,000 miles from home and your issue is bacon. But the good part of me wrote about Newski bacon and where to get it, and about a company in Massachusetts that will import almost anything that you want for fee. They will source it, find it, and get it to you. And you can buy British bacon in, you know, hermetically sealed packages that last for a while and can be shipped. So I told him about that. And then this whole conversation starts developing about Jaffa cakes and penguin cookies and all sorts of things that people miss. And so then one guy participates who I notice works for a firm in the UK that I used to work for. So I immediately click on his profile to see who this guy is. And he's still living in Northampton, England. So I send him a private message saying, so why are you in this expats group? And he explains he's got children living here and they're in it, so he participates in it. So long story short, I started the branch of this company that he works in. I know some of the people that work there. It's 45 minutes drive from where I was raised. He got me a speaking gig in his community. They paid for my flight. I got to visit my parents because I answered a question about bacon on LinkedIn. Wow. But it's also, but what else did I do? I engaged in the conversation, and then I watched the conversation. I stayed in the discussion and watched how it developed. And when I saw a really personal connection to me, something that seemed much more direct, I jumped in a more intimate way. And that's the thing, you get the opportunity to do. Sometimes you see people hearing or saying things, sharing things that have deeper significance for you personally than what everybody else has said. I belong to a number of sales groups, sales best practice groups, sales trainers, sales seminar organizers, different things like this. And a lot of what they say is so generic. It's like, oh, unless there's some fresh perspective, why are we having this conversation? Yes, trust is important in sales, go figure.
Jacqui, is there a directory of groups, and so that you can, or an index, so that you can find some groups that you're interested in?
There is, but there's also a search facility.
Okay.
On the toolbar at the top, do you have a pointer? No?
No.
Okay. But on the toolbar here, we can see it says groups. When you go to groups, it automatically comes up with the groups thing. But you can scroll down here and it has people, companies, groups. So go to that search thing, look for groups, and then put in topics that you're interested in. So throw me a topic, somebody. What industry is somebody in? Let's not ask the gentleman with his mouth full.
Higher education.
Higher ed, okay. There you go. Starts to bring us a list of groups, and then you see it starts to get segmented. Women in higher ed, professionals teaching, so management. So you can start to develop, but you can also start your own group, as I did. I have a client in the travel industry, does chauffeur and limousine service, and he's based locally, which was really good when I broke my arm and had to drive to Fond du Lac. So I got family rate, thank goodness. And so he's in a group called Executive Assistants to CEOs, because they're the ones that book the limos. How smart is that? He wants to know what the assistants are having to deal with, how they think, what matters to them. So because I'm working with him, I joined the group so I could see for a while what goes on and help him better use that information. So I noticed I was in that group yesterday that somebody started another subgroup, which is entirely about travel. So I sent my client a link to it, saying, I think you should probably join this group. And he wrote back saying, thank you for thinking ahead for me. So he's appreciating that little bit of extra service. Can't hurt, right? And then he said, but this group only has 8 people in it and you're one of them, why should I join? I said, if you look at the group properly, you'll see it's 4 hours old. And he's like, so impressed, I'm so on the ball here. But I mean, it's just luck that I looked at that moment and saw it, because the person who had started it had created a discussion about it so that people would know, I'm looking at the discussions, I see it's relevant to my client. And so then I said to him, join it. Be a leader in it. You have the chance to be a really strong voice in a group as it's just building. If it doesn't provide value after 2 or 3 months, drop out of it. You can leave any of these groups anytime. So what I do is I join groups that are connected to projects that I'm involved in. And when I've finished finding use for them, I drop out again. And so much research that can be done through all of this. If you think about things you're working on either for your class or in your business, in your church or anything, you're looking for resources. We've got 120 million people here. Maybe 35 to 40% of them are really actively using this and want to help you if you ask them the right question. So you can create your own forum for what it is you want to discuss. And so there's lots of tools to use. So explore those groups, get involved, participate, and monitor what you do. If it's not finding good use for your time, do something else with your time. But if you find value, do that. So,
Now, Jacqui, are you automatically accepted in the group?
more
or
and more
Or do
so.
they have also the right to and not accept your membership?
Most groups started as closed groups like mine is, and you apply and then whoever's managing that group will accept you or not. More and more groups are now open, so as soon as you apply, you're accepted. I belong to a few groups that, I'm in an executive women's group called Tempo. Our group is open only to Tempo members. I belong to Madison Area Business Consultants, same thing. We want to make it a forum for our small group of people to be able to talk openly about what it is we're all doing. But most groups are really open. And the challenge with that is that they become so big, they become hard to manage, and then these subgroups start to develop. So there's an official Rotary group. We have a downtown Madison Rotary group that only Rotarians from our club can be in. But on our Rotary Facebook page, anybody can be a friend, but only a few administrators can actually post anything. But we can all like things and tag ourselves in our photographs and things like that. But you know, so it's thinking about what's practical for you. And if people want to accept you into a group, start your own group and let everybody know. And the people in that group will come to you anyway, because they want to find out. And you think about Madison. It usually will bring up first your own groups if you, oh, it's not doing that, so let's go back to my list of groups. So Business Connections of Greater Madison has over 2,000 members in. Connected in Madison, that's fairly new. That only has about 800. Deemed by local members of that. Lefroy, for you Scotch whisky drinkers, if you're a Lefroy fan, there's a group for that. The general consensus is, if not Lefroy, water. Link Up Madison, Linked Madison, these are groups that your peers in the community are in. And the beautiful thing with this is, anybody in these groups can read your status updates, so you don't have to be connected to all of them. And you can tell them your news, you can start discussions in these groups, and all of these people in the Greater Madison community will see it. So if you don't have time to find 500, 600, or 1,000 people, you've got several thousand sitting here that you can post to any time, and you can just join these groups. M3 Insurance Solutions for Business, I coach 7 people in the executive team at M3. Pays for me to know what they're talking about, so I joined their group. But what was really interesting when I first was invited into a conversation at M3, my first meeting was with the CEO, and I'd written a column and I wanted his input to it, and so he said yes, and then he invited me to come in, because people love it when you write a column that makes their company look good in the community that they want to sell to. And so he invited me in, and then as I'm leaving, he said to me, would you like to coach some people here? So I said, probably. Who would they be and what would it be about? And he starts to tell me, and I said, we can't really stand at the bottom of the stairs and discuss this, so let's make another appointment. But so before I went back, I went on LinkedIn and I discovered I had 68 direct connections to him. Either people that were my first contacts who worked with him and were his first contacts, or other people in my world that were connected. I had 68 contacts to M3. So before I went in, I was able to find out, doesn't like stories, bottom line me, talking bullets to this guy, and he likes it. He loves it if a meeting goes short. Where do you find this stuff out? Unless you can talk to people that know them well. So it's really fun for that kind of thing. But these groups, just so many different things that you can do, some lots of sales stuff there, sales shebang. Who comes up with these names? I volunteer a lot for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, so they're on there. The Travel Desk is the new group that I started, that I went to yesterday. See how many members it has now. It's probably still 18. So since late morning yesterday, 18 people have joined this group. And so that's pretty good. And they're all over the place. Los Angeles, the Dominican Republic, Madison, Wisconsin. So, you know, think about groups. They're places to play, places to show who you are. You know, I really believe that we build relationships when people can see who we're being, not just what we're doing. This is an opportunity to show you generosity, to share. And the lady that is now starting to work with me after Labor Day in Tel Aviv, there'd been a question about, does anybody actually get any business out of LinkedIn? So of course, me being super proud of my 7 clients at that point, right? Yes, I do. I got 7 this year already. And so she writes me a private message asking me how I did that. And then she writes, but if this is what you get paid to do, why are you giving it away for free on here? So I wrote, well, I live a long way from home and I need friends. And then I said, you know, this isn't giving samples. You know, if you walk around the grocery store, they give you samples of cheese and cookies and cake and bread, and you go and buy it. This is a way of giving samples and building trust. I said, and you know, I find that generosity is it's one of my favorite things. I have 6 life values. The first is always be grateful. The second is always be generous. And so it's kind of the way I travel through life. And so then she starts talking about what I do and other tips, and I've been to my website, looked at my website and asked me, did I have any political issues doing business in Israel? So I wrote back saying, more of the world's problems have been solved through trade than through politicians and ambassadors. I'm sorry, but it's true. And so she wrote back saying, then could I arrange a time to talk to you about your coaching me? And I write back saying, don't you have sales coaches in Israel? And she said, I haven't met one that I trust as much as I trust you. And all we've done, I've been watching your posts for a long time, had come out in the conversation. They're like, wow, we've never met and she trusts me. People she's met, she doesn't. So as long as she never meets me, it should be good. So, you know, so powerful stuff. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is research. Who do you want to meet? You can probably find information about them here.
Let's say the mayor, Paul Sullivan.
Paul Sullivan. Okay. So it's changed this from groups to people. Do you work in Madison?
Yes.
Okay. He's coming to speak at my Rotary Club in 2 weeks. If you want to come for lunch with me, you can meet him there.
Great, sure.
It'll cost you $15 and you have to sit next to me if you can stand those 2 things. So you see, I have all of these people and it says second. So these aren't people I know. These are people that know people who know me that also know Paul Sullivan, or this person knows Paul Sullivan. So let's click on the first one because it's easiest. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 direct connections to Stephen, who knows Paul. So there you go. And 1, 2, 3 of those are in my Rotary Club. That's the United Way, good organization. I volunteer there. Mary takes care of what little pittance I have. Good people, that easy. So then what do? You find somebody who knows somebody you know, and you reach out to them and say, hey, how can I get to meet this person? And in my world, if I'm trying to sell to them, I'll call them up and tell them why I want to meet them very specifically. And say, you know, if I pay for the breakfast or the lunch, would you invite them to come to lunch? And they'll usually say yes. And then we have fun. It's that straightforward. Or you can use LinkedIn mechanisms to get connected.
That's pretty neat. I like that function. Steve Brown is a good friend of mine, but that's a.
So you're one of the 2 others. So you must be one of the 2 others because obviously Chuck and I are connected on here. So, you know, and then you have this, how do you know them? And if you don't know them, then you have to go through your introductions. Through one of the mechanism here, there's a mechanism in here to forward your request for an introduction through here. But often we've met somebody, but we haven't really done business, but we know they'll know who we are. I use that as my default. We've done business together. So I was at a networking event in Madison at the Edgewater on Tuesday evening. I sat at here with 6 women, and 3 of them I arranged to have breakfast with in September and October. And so when I got home that night, I went online, I looked them up on LinkedIn, I invited them to connect, and I put we've done business together. And when you click on that, it asks you at what company. So I choose my current company because that's the one they've got the business card from. But then it says include a personal note, which is optional. You should always personalize it. Do you really respond to generic mail? But when it says, you know, hey Stephen, really enjoyed talking to you at whatever the other night. I'm looking forward to our breakfast in October, but in the meantime, let's connect here. So we can start to get to know each other. It's like, oh, that's that woman. Okay, couldn't necessarily remember my name, but the message reminds him. I connected to the guy that owns Cedar Grove Cheese Factory in Spring Green. Cedar Creek, is it? Cheese Factory in Spring Green. Bob Wills, the other night. And I wrote in the message, I saw him appear in the list of one of my friends. So I sent him a message that said, I'm the Brit that lapped up everything you had to say when you presented to Tempo in March at the Madison Club earlier this year. I'm looking forward to getting out to the cheese factory, but in the meantime, let's connect here. He wrote back saying, oh, delighted to connect you. I was hoping you would come, and remember, you have to ask for me when you get here and I'll give you a personal tour. My daughter's going to London in September for a semester. What do you recommend she should see that won't be in any of the guidebooks? So I said, well, it depends what her interest is and stuff like that. So he and I are having breakfast in a couple of weeks, and we're going to look at some ideas, and I'm going to give him some input. So immediately, he remembered who I was because of my message. But if I'd just written Jacqui Sakowski, so he's in a room with 45 women all in suits and heels, is he going to remember? It's the personalization that matters, that makes us rise to the top, creates that memory. So think about that. So getting to know people, really important. Researching for companies. So I mentioned M3 insurance. Okay, they come up here. I have 93 people in my network at M3 Insurance, but I only actually know probably 15 that I could name, that I could write down their names and job titles or name at least. But I have 93. Sandy doesn't work there, she's on their board. I know her through other things, she's on the board of another of my clients' companies. Corey Chambers, his company is my client. So I start looking at 8 first connections, 85 second connections, 128 employees that are there. So if you want to know about an organization, one of the things that I love it for is once I have a prospect in my sites, they've moved from sort of suspect to prospect, and they've got a meeting set or I'm trying to get a meeting, I will reach out to ask people about them. There's a company that supplies concrete locally, and I'd spoken at Monona Terrace at an event for First Business Bank, and before they changed the law on this, I was checking my email at a stoplight, and there was a message from one of the guys in the audience saying, you know, I enjoyed your presentation, I wonder if we could get together and talk about bringing your services to my firm. So I'm like, yes. And so I email him saying that I'm just driving to Cedar Rapids where I'm going to be for a couple of days. Would it be okay if we talk when I get back? And so he emailed me back saying, sure, let's talk on Friday. So when I got to Cedar Rapids and I got into my hotel room, I put on my computer and I looked him up on LinkedIn. And I had 5 first connections that were connected to him. So I sent them all the same message saying, without breaching his confidentiality, what can you share with me that will help me be better prepared for my first meeting? Now, if you're asking your friends for help, if they can, they'll help you, right? If you ask them nicely. So I learned everything from 2009 was their best year ever, and they've been around for 40 years. And in this economy, in construction, for 2009 to be your best year ever says you're doing something pretty good. He's a Christian. Doesn't matter to me. I am too, but it doesn't change anything. But it was like, okay, interesting information. He's a triathlete. I have a client who's a Team USA triathlete. So how nice that I could go to this meeting and say, hey, Abe says that you're a triathlete. So who do you work out with? Well, I'm just getting into it and I really need a good coach. I have a client who's a Team USA triathlete, goes every year to the Ironman World Championships. Maybe I should arrange for the two of you to have breakfast because she might be able to point you in the direction. And he's like, who? And I told him, he said, oh my God, I would love to meet her. Not only is she brilliant, she's beautiful. I said, I'm married. He said, I know. But you know, instantly my credentials, my credibility go up because I found this stuff out. And he became my client, and he probably would have become my client anyway, who knows? But it can't hurt, can it? And how easy, it takes 5 minutes on here. You know, 30 years ago when I started in sales, I used to spend half days in libraries going through reference material to find out what was going on. If you wanted to understand a trend, you read several years of Kelly's Directory's Gentleman, he is nodding, you've been there. It's hard work. And so now you can do this stuff in your bathrobe, get ready to go to work in the morning. I don't sleep a lot, so you know, I'm up early, check the world news, do some things, and then I can go on here and find out what the world is up to. So think about how you can leverage this tool to really help. There's so much more to know about this. But I don't know what you're each doing and how it can be of value. So, ma'am, who's never met it before, what are you thinking? How could it be valuable to you?
Well, I think it's an incredible resource for my students. Right now, I give a lot of references and get them jobs via the phone, but it would be nice to tell some of my students that are thinking about traveling, the different opportunities that are coming up. But I see this more applicable to the women's place that I'm opening and connecting with community resources to get it off the ground, to get it moving, and to get assistance. So I'm actually pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it's good. And you mentioned references. Let's go to profile. You'll see this bar here that says 100% profile completeness. Certain things need to be present in order for your profile to be complete. If you don't have a photograph, get one. Do you not have a photograph? Oh no, I do. I hate it when people don't. I do too. But one of the things is no photograph, no credibility.
Right.
You know, it says you're not invested enough to want to show your whole self up there. And you know, and you can pick the picture. So, you know, I have to say to some of my friends, you don't look like that anymore, get a new picture, I'm sorry. You know, and it could be, you know, I have my other glasses on, I have 2 pairs of glasses, there's some black ones with orange, which is what's in here. But you know, if you've changed your hairstyle dramatically, or you've aged 20 years, come on, fess up, right? I mean, your picture needs to be somewhat credible, so that if somebody walks in to meet you in Panera, they actually do recognize you. So have a picture, do this stuff. Recommendations is huge. And you can give and get recommendations on LinkedIn. And let's face it, it's our job to tell the world we're fabulous. But if we can get other people to tell the world we're fabulous, people believe this, right? We just bought a new TV. So, you know, we pick up this TV and then we go to tigerdirect.com and we look up that, you know, out of 103 people that have written a review, it's got a 4.6 average. We have no idea what the standards are of these 100 people. We don't even know if they live in this country or that they're real. But because it says it's 4.8 out of 5, we buy the TV. So so, but if you could get those 103 people to be people that you know, how much better would it be? I mean, I would never believe my brother. He would just go like, well, how cheap is it? Is it a good deal? Get it. Which, doesn't mean a thing to me. So recommendations is huge. I have 25 recommendations. Okay. Because I ask for them, or I do something else. I give recommendations. And when you give somebody a recommendation and they accept it, a new box comes up saying, you can recommend Jacqui Sakowski. And so I don't give a recommendation that I don't believe in. I recently got asked by somebody to give her a recommendation. And so I picked up the phone and I said to her, Leah, I can give you a recommendation for being a fabulous human being and a wonderful friend. But when I worked with you, you had a completely different business, which takes a completely different skill set to the one that you're in now. I have to tell you, as someone who works in the sales and marketing arena, it would be much more credible for you to have recommendations from people that have worked with you in your current business. I'm happy to write a recommendation for your previous business, but your previous business isn't actually listed in any detail on here, so I'm not sure the value it will provide. And so I said, think about who your current clients are. And she said, well, I know I could ask you. I said, you can ask them. So I helped her compose a little email that she could send to the other people. And she did that. And of course they recommended her. She is good at what she does. But how much better to be able to say, this is where I found value, than Jacqui thinks you're a good woman. So Fred.
So if someone gives you a recommendation, does it post to your LinkedIn right away, or you get to proof it first before
You get to proof it first. So you choose to display it. So I have these recommendations. And so this is my limo driver, Alexander, Russian spelling, he's Russian. And it says about what I do. And then you're enabled to pick top qualities. And there's a number of options there that you can use. You don't always have to do those. So you need at least 5 to have a complete profile. So think about people you've worked with, people that have been colleagues, people that you've done business with more than once. One of the easy ways, I did a LinkedIn training for these executives that when I met Chuck and me on the street afterward, 2-hour training, and I got a really nice email back from one of the women there, Amy, saying all these wonderful things about how incredible it had been. And so I wrote back saying, bless you, that's really, really kind. Would you mind converting this into a LinkedIn recommendation so that other people who could benefit from this training can see it? She sent me an email last week saying, I've still not written you that recommendation, but I still intend to, but it's been really crazy. But, so when people are saying good things, when they're feeling really motivated about you, ask them to do it then. And somebody's telling you you're fabulous, and then you've got all that goodwill. Because how long will that goodwill last? Until you next screw up, right? And then you say to them, you promised me a recommendation, and they're like, yeah, well, that was till I knew you better. So ask people, don't be afraid to ask people to recommend you for the things they personally find valuable. And the reason I like having a lot of recommendations is, one, I'm grateful that people appreciate what I do, but they're all different. They talk about different things. And so if people assess me and evaluate me on different aspects of what I do based on their own value set, then they'll find lots of different reasons in this material. I think my favorite one is Tatum. I'm just glowing, Jesus. Thanks for believing me and helping me be the most fantastic I can be. Not good or professional. She's a woman, she has lots of tattoos and things, but she's this awesome sales guy. And she's just amazing. And she bounds everywhere. And she just everything explodes out of her. She's young and joyous and full of life. And that she wrote that I'm glowing and I'm good. She has to be the most fantastic, not the most professional or the most successful. I love. So, but I've got everything, bankers and non-profits and all the different types of people. And of course, if those recommendations come from friends of your prospects or the people you want to hire, really cool. So think about this in relation also to the brand image that you want to have for yourself and for your organization. You know, we have our corporate brand and we have our personal brand. What do you want people to think of you after they've read this? What message do you want them to take away? What feelings and ideas do you want them to have? And then try and create that. There's a few weaknesses with LinkedIn. It doesn't have a bullet feature. I think is a nightmare. However, you can cut and paste from Word. So you can create everything in Word and then paste it into here. Because there's no spell checking facility either. Which, you know, I have false nails and I type fast. And so that spell checking thing is really handy for me. And we're all in too big of a hurry. So explore it. One of the things that I absolutely love is there's a great help center on LinkedIn. Take the time to go to it. It's called Resource Center. And it's, where is it? Under more. I think, yeah, under Answers and Learning Center. Explore the Learning Center. It's got lots of tutorials, lots of advice and guidance. But first think about, I'm building a network. What do I want my network to be about? What do I want people to take away from this? What do I want to project? And then go to the Learning Center and find the places to do all of that. If your clock is right, it's 1:31 and I think we head to 1:30. Ow, he's going to beat me. I hope this has been helpful. And if you get other questions, there's some of my company material here. It's got my business card and my email address and everything. I mean, feel free to follow up with me, but connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know that you were in this program, and so then I can follow your progress. Yes, ma'am.
So I did, but I didn't write a note because I didn't want you to think I wasn't listening. So I sent you a link, but I didn't write an actual personal note.
That's okay.
So-
That's okay. And I don't mind that people multitask. Yes, if they keep looking at their watches to see how much longer it is, that's when I get upset. So thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you, Jacqui. This has been extremely helpful to everyone. Let's take a 5-minute break, and if you want to say a few words to Jacqui during the break, please do so.
Oh, we put some material here.